Hey, everybody. Let me turn the volume up here. This is Cindy Baker. I'm speaker coach, help with productivity, ADHD, and basically help professionals overcome overwhelm. And so this is your weekly free training. And we have a good topic. We're going to talk about procrastination. So I've been putting this off, but no, I'm just kidding. But before I tell you why we procrastinate and what to do about it, I want to take a minute and just thank all of the veterans. Today is Veterans Day here in the U.S., and I am so grateful for your service, veterans and families that supported the veterans. Without your sacrifice, we would not live in freedom, and we don't take that for granted. So thank you for your service. So anyway, procrastination, every time I say I'm going to talk about procrastination, people are like, oh, I've already heard all this before, but we still struggle with it. So what stops you from getting started on something? Why do you procrastinate? And I talk all the time about time management. Procrastination is not really a time management issue. Procrastination really stems from weak self-regulation of emotions and moods. And that's kind of a different way to look at it. So it's not so much about time management as it is self-regulation problem with emotions and moods, because a lot of times we don't start because we don't feel like it, right? This is especially common in people with ADHD, but people with ADHD are not the only ones that struggle with it. So you can turn intentions into actions when you uncover why you're procrastinating, and then apply some of these strategies that I'm going to share with you. So, you don't procrastinate because you're lazy. And it's not because you're unorganized or you don't manage time well. It's really self-regulation. It's not even because you're stressed out. You procrastinate because you're unable to effectively regulate your own emotions. Now, if you have ADHD like me, that's a trademark symptom. So this is not a new theory, right? Lots of research projects have been dedicated to studying procrastination. And if you just tell somebody who's a chronic procrastinator, just do it, I mean, that's like telling somebody who's nearsighted, just squint harder, or somebody with a clinical mood disorder, just cheer up. It's not that simple. And so it really doesn't have anything to do with time management. So the research shows that procrastination, avoidance of things, actually stems from our ability to self-regulate emotions and moods, or lack of ability. Especially negative moods. It's like the inability to manage negative moods around a task. And I don't know, there's a lot more I could say about that, but there's been a lot of research on the subject, and people a lot of times know what to do or what they ought to do, but they just can't seem to bring themselves to do it. And it's that gap between intention and action. So self-regulation of emotions, moods, time, that's a battle that people with ADHD fight every day. So that the space between the task and the time to complete it, it seems like it's a long way off. But with people with ADHD, they don't see time in the same way. as neurotypicals. So I think people with ADHD procrastinate more. This is what I've seen. I work with a lot of people with ADHD, a lot of entrepreneurs. And then I work with some people who have never had that diagnosis, but they really resonate with some of those symptoms. So people with ADHD are not the only ones who, have writer's block and stare at a blank computer screen, or, have trouble getting started on something, or you stare into space, uh, put off going to the dentist until your toothache is unbearable, have that big stack of papers and you just push it to the back of your, the corner of your desk, instead of getting started on filing or whatever it is. But procrastination, it's the great equalizer. Everybody tends to struggle with it at some point. But people with ADHD are just masters at task avoidance. That's why whenever I give an invitation to join me in a program I'm doing or something like that, I always try to get people to make the decision right then, because I know ADHD people and they put things off and then it never happens. It's like, so we're waiting for motivation to just descend upon us. We're waiting for inspiration. So while we're waiting, we eat, we binge watch, we scroll social media, do all these kind of self-soothing things instead of getting started on what we need to be doing. We distract ourselves. And, some people dash to the kitchen for snacks, or they drink a bunch of caffeine or whatever it is. But I have my distractions sometimes too. Sometimes I'll even clean instead of getting started on something, which, because you think, well, that's a good thing, cleaning, right? But that's not what I needed to be doing at the time. I'm just putting off getting started on writing something or something that's more mental. But it's like it's like we're trying to disguise that feeling of failure. And so we just don't get started because we feel inadequate to do it. So everybody experiences procrastination at some point. But if you have ADHD, that unfinished task really sometimes can be very upsetting. Planning, prioritizing, motivating, organizing, and decision-making just cause an ADHD person to feel overwhelmed sometimes, and they just shut down. Procrastination, it's not a character flaw. Excuse me. It's not like a mysterious curse on your ability to manage time. Procrastination is a way of coping with challenging emotions. Certain tasks bring up negative moods, and putting it off is our way of dealing with it. And the bad thing is putting it off just makes the negative emotions worse, and then we start with self-blame and all of that kind of stuff. And we remember maybe from the past, excuse me, parents or teachers or friends, saying that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, or we're not capable enough, or we're not going to pick you, that kind of stuff. And then, lots of self-control is required to begin a task and sustain the effort towards completion. Regulating, commanding, and controlling thoughts and emotions is one of the most challenging aspects of ADHD. So if that's something that you struggle with, you are not alone. So what do we do about it, right? How do we fix it? To lessen the discomfort and stop procrastinating, you got to learn why you're procrastinating. Because people do this for different reasons. But once you can kind of figure out a little bit more what's going on under the surface, then you can apply some really practical tips to help you close the gap in getting things done. Um, so um, sometimes we just procrastinate because we're exhausted, you know, emotionally, physically, but also emotionally. Um, if you're upset about something, then it's going to interfere with your work. If you have anxiety, um, it's going to keep you from getting started. And then if you have ADHD, a lot of times people with ADHD will put things off because um, they like to wait till the last minute, and then they finally get motivated and kick it into high gear. You know, I don't know. I don't know why we do that, but it's like we need that little dopamine hit. Sometimes we don't get started because we don't know what to do. We don't understand it. It's complicated. And then sometimes we put things off because we're a perfectionist and we want all of the factors to be perfect before we get started. And then we have trouble, if you have ADHD, especially, you have trouble making decisions. And if there are decisions that are involved, then it makes us want to put things off. It's like analysis paralysis, right? So think about what's going on in your head when you put things off. Remember, it's self-regulation of emotions. You don't procrastinate because you're lazy and stressed out and all of that kind of stuff. So if you are struggling with the emotions that go along with getting started on something, then that's where you need to start with strategies to overcome it, I guess. So once you figure that out, let's say your emotion is fear. Let's say it's fear. And you know, you've probably heard the acronym fear is false excuses appearing real. So it's like we convince ourselves that our excuses are valid. You know, well, I needed a snack because I need the energy, right? I needed to check my email because one of them might be urgent, you know, and we just go on and on. Well, the solution to that is to be honest with yourself. Are those excuses true, or are you just trying to put things off? So, and if you're overwhelmed, try to pinpoint where the starting point is. If you get stuck, you know, and you stare into space, you feel overwhelmed, then I like to put a pad of paper right next to my computer, and just as things pop into my head, I just kind of do a brain dump, and I write it on the paper, and that way I can concentrate on what I'm supposed to be doing. Also, I break big projects into smaller pieces. So it is hard to get started on a big project. But if the very first little tiny action step is so easy that it's a sure win, I can do that. I can get started on that. Maybe you need to ask for help. Maybe you need somebody to explain how to do it. You know, some people just overthink things and they just have looping thoughts that just keep them stuck. And you have to have some mental strength to break that pattern. You fall into that what if trap. You know, what if this, what if that? So when you catch yourself being stuck in worry, step outside like you're an outside viewer and think about what you're doing. Like, watch yourself. what would you say to yourself if you were not you? If you were outside, like a friend, would you say, "Oh, it's fine to stay stuck in that anxiety"? No, you would try to talk some sense into that person. Well, that's what you can do to yourself, go for a walk, do some deep breathing, that kind of thing. Now, I said procrastination is not really a time management um, problem, but time management is a factor. So you do have to think about that. If you have ADHD, you probably have a different awareness of time than other people. So if procrastination is the inability to perform a task by a specific time. And so you have to think about time. Um, you may need to set 3 alarms on your phone. You, you know, you may need to have a big sticky note in front of you that reminds you of why getting that task done is important. Maybe you have a reward and you put that in front of you and you focus on that. But you got to do something to kick it into gear. And, I've said this before, but studies have shown that if you have ADHD, there's a shortage of dopamine, which is that feel-good hormone. And things that are boring almost feel painful to the ADHD brain, which is frustrating to other people because they think we're just being, like a high maintenance person. But, wanting to go do something fun is a lot more exciting than finishing a demanding task. And so you have to use willpower to turn down the doing something fun invitation, right? So just make it a habit to put responsibility before fun. Fun can be your reward. And plan for a reward so that you have something to look forward to and it makes doing the task worth it. Schedule something during your breaks, schedule breaks and make that something fun so that you can kind of get it out of your system a little bit. A lot of times we have fluctuating energy levels. That's another reason that we put things off. Our energy levels change pretty often. And we'll say, "Oh, I'm just not in the mood," or "I just don't feel like it." And then, I'll do it later when I feel like it. But you're not going to feel like it when the time comes. You still feel unmotivated when it's later. So know your energy flow. Schedule the most challenging work when your energy levels are the highest, when you feel awake and alert. Don't eat like a ton of sugar and carbs and expect yourself to be alert. Pay attention to what you're eating. Make sure you're moving. If you're a couch potato, you're not going to feel motivated. Exercise. And if you're upset about something, you've got some kind of distressing emotions, stressed out about something, that is going to affect executive functioning in your brain. And so if you're feeling resentful about or worried, or you're fearing future events, write down what's going on or talk about it with somebody. Talk about what you can change and then what you can't change that you just need to accept. Maybe you need to get therapy if it's something that's deep-seated and really interfering with your quality of life. If it's just ADHD symptoms, then hire an ADHD coach like me and talk out those things that are causing you distress or anxiety or anger. Now, I've talked about hyper-focus before, where you just hone in on something and you tune everything else out. People with ADHD, we don't have a lack of focus. It's not an attention deficit. I do not like that term. But it's sometimes we focus too intensely or we don't focus at all. So hyper-focus makes hard work more comfortable. All the systems are in sync. You're kind of like in your flow state. You're working efficiently. And then if you don't have focus, you just feel like, I can't get anything done. So you can't always just like snap your fingers and make yourself hyper focus. But you can, before you begin, clear your mind. Like I said, have a piece of paper, write down stuff that's bothering you so you can deal with it later. And then do something that you enjoy to kind of ignite that spark. And then sit down and try to get started. And if you're still not inspired, like I said, break it down to the smallest thing. Like, let's say you're going to write something or type on your computer. Just say to yourself, what's the first thing? Well, the first thing is I have to come and sit in my desk chair. That's small. And you sit in the chair and you're like, yay, I sat in the chair in front of my computer. Next, I got to open my laptop. Yay, I opened my laptop. And then I got to turn the computer on. Yay, I turned it on. I got to open up the document. Like just getting, and after a while, the juices are flowing, the motivation hits. And then before you know it, you're getting some stuff done. But here's the thing, you do not have to feel like doing something to do it. That's what that's the false belief that we believe. We keep thinking that we have to feel like doing something. It's okay to feel uncomfortable and to make yourself do something that you don't want to do. Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes you won't feel motivated. But finding motivation, getting yourself started on something, and then sustaining the effort to reach completion does require intense self-control. But you can do it, whether you have ADHD or not. You have a little bit of determination, a lot of desire. Remember, put that big Y in front of you on a sticky note. And even if you have ADHD, you can gain the discipline to improve procrastination. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope you have a great day. Now, whatever you've been putting off, I want you to go do it. I'll see you next.